went a little nuts.
No, let's just hope we don't get this for the national convention the same. Get the same owner.
Right. Sorry to interrupt.
I don't care about you. Restart the computer.
Okay, I'm just gonna restart.
Did you say this music is very soothing?
You say very soothing or very soothing?
All right, so we are live on YouTube, and Nick is taking us live on the website. When he shoots me a text, I will let you know. It should be any second now. I really gotta stop saying any second now because it could be a minute.
Any day now.
All right, we are live.
Sorry about that again. We are continuing on. And again, we are going to keep the same energy as we had when things had to briefly go on pause. The question before we left everybody, Congressman, and I know that the governor's answer was fantastic, and I know yours will be too. How have you managed to pivot in this time where we aren't able to look folks exactly in the eye, shake hands, and sort of do the physical engagement? How has that changed your organizing?
Yeah, Mathoni, in some ways it's been better. First of all, we're still raising a lot of money, not necessarily for my race, but we're trying to support those 42 incumbent Democratic House members that are going to have tough races. In Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, Elaine Luria. And then we have 19 more seats that are held by Republicans right now that we think we can win and build our margin in the House. And then, of course, there's the 8 or 9 Senate seats that we think we can pick up. We want to give Joe Biden a strong Senate, a strong House, make the Grim Reaper go away. So how do you raise money in today's world? Well, the Governor McAuliffe, talked about the Zoom calls. And I found that when you get an interesting speaker, somebody other than me, you can get a lot of people to sign up. We're doing one with Paul Magala next week, for example, and that's doing really well. I did one with a famous geneticist at Harvard MIT last week. He happens to be my cousin. And so we had all kinds of people show up just to hear what Cousin George had to say about the coronavirus and about colonial mammoth and about age reversal. And I'm doing one next week with Nick Burns, who plausibly could have been Secretary of State if Hillary had won in 16. He was the Undersecretary for Politics, one of those great foreign policy thinkers. And so I get to play Mathoni's role with him next week. And all these are raising, $30,000, $50,000 each. And because it's Zoom, you can actually talk to people one at a time. Everybody gets a chance to talk, and it's really fun. The other piece of it is everybody's home. So typically when you're making phone calls, either for voter contact or for raising money, you figure you're going to leave 8 messages out of 10. Now we're maybe leaving 2 messages out of 10 because people are so thankful that somebody's finally calling them at home and relieving them from their solitude.
I agree. I think we have seen that over and over again. And then, of course, the power of bringing in voices of science, of bringing in, stellar political voices, bringing in moral voices. We had Congressman Clyburn on one of our calls and about voter protection, and just the sound of moral leadership meant a lot to people in that call. So there's a lot that you are able to do through these Zoom calls, remembering not only that they can be places for information, but places for inspiration. These are still really tough times that we're all going through, and we're on this big roller coaster as we try to figure out our future. So speaking of fundraisers, what are some of the other unique ways that you all have seen working in terms of fundraising virtually? And Governor, I have to come to you because face it, you're the king of the hill when it comes to fundraising. Thanks to our wonderful headquarters. I know that.
Yep, you see my name every day when you walk in. Good, very good.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we are raising, I can say for the Biden campaign, tremendous amount of money. And as the congressman mentioned, we're doing the same thing at the House level. There's a lot more interaction on these Zoom fundraisers because generally right now during the presidential, we would be having big, gigantic events and big, gigantic ballrooms. And the candidate would come in, we'd have Vice President Biden as the nominee come in and speak and then would leave. Now you get the vice president on a Zoom call and you get to ask questions. So in a very unique way, now that we're doing these through Zooms, is you are having a much better, broader interaction with candidates because talking face to face, asking questions, it's not just standing up, giving a speech and leaving. And I think that's, people they enjoy that and it's exciting. We're putting a lot of operations together here in Virginia for the vice president. Chris Bowling will be our state director, and he's beginning to lay all the groundwork of what we need to actually do here in Virginia, not only on the fundraising piece, but putting the political structures in place. But mostly the fundraising is being done now. We're doing obviously digital fundraising, tremendous online. You've still got a lot of email fundraising, direct mail fundraising, but this Zoom fundraising, and coming from someone who is probably, in fairness, Muthani, has eaten more chicken dinners than any person alive. The idea that we're not in one of these ballrooms, and I would be 50 states, I'd be traveling every single day, doing whatever. I'm being able to talk to everybody right here face to face like this and not having to eat all that lovely chicken and mashed potatoes. It's actually working. But the bigger point is we're having discussions on issues that matter to the voters, and you're getting to ask the candidate questions. And it's just like you're doing it face to face, you're getting more quality time. So I think this is a great model for us going forward.
And to pile on to what the governor said, because we're not getting on airplanes or driving 3 hours a day to get to the event in Roanoke or the Eastern Shore, there's a lot more time. As the governor said, he's on, eight Zoom calls a day. I have to remind myself sometimes at 4 o'clock to brush my teeth and take a shower because you're Zooming the whole day long. The other part that I think is really important with this is that people are thinking, well, people don't give money because it's the coronavirus, because you have, 31 million people unemployed. But the people who give money to political campaigns still have money. They're the ones that had a little extra to begin with. They still have a little extra, and they feel that it's more important than ever before. Those folks were getting on the Zoom calls. I had Mark Warner on one 2 weeks ago. He's dealing with more important things maybe than ever in his career, trying to figure out how to put America back to work, how to rebuild this economy, how to get vaccines and the like. So the things that we're talking about are actually ever more important for people's lives, and it brings them to us.
Absolutely. Well, and something that Virginia Democrats are known for, and I'll say envied for at times, is your absolutely phenomenal core of volunteers. And since you have elections every single year in Virginia, you're blessed with a really energized, warm group of volunteers who are well-trained, they're motivated, who are deeply familiar with the needs of their own neighborhoods and communities. But obviously one of the challenges, again, that we're facing this year is how to keep volunteers engaged, even when we can't do the types of door knocking and phone. Well, we can do the phone banking, but the other types of door knocking and other in-person events that our volunteers have come to love and expect.
But I think they're actually doing these together through Zooms, energizing the grassroots. I do think most people feel that in the fall that we will be back, hopefully, to the normal type of campaigning. I don't know if we're going to have a convention. I mean, today it's probably not likely that 50,000 people will be in Milwaukee. We'll see what happens. And if Trump wants to go do it and put everybody at risk, but we're smarter than that. We care about people's safety. So whatever we end up doing, it's going to work out fine. But I do think in the fall, hopefully most people will get back to how we traditionally do some of these things. But in the meantime, right now, we're doing the voter file. We're doing the voter by mail. The process is going forward. People ask me all the time about the vice president. Well, he needs to get out there. No, as I say, I'm fine with what the vice president's doing because number one, we got to keep him safe. If people should not be out campaigning, doing, you know, what Trump's now doing in Oklahoma and all that, that's not the message we want to send. Stay safe. We've got plenty of time. I remind you that Hillary did not get out of the presidential race till June of 08. Bernie Sanders did not get out till July of 2016. Here we were in April with our nominee, with all the folks who had run in that already endorsed Joe Biden. We've done this earlier than we've ever been before. So, you know, we're in very good shape. The vice president should come out and speak on issues of importance. He needs to, when he speaks, lead the nation, motivate the nation, but he doesn't need to be out there at this stage every day. He needs to be safe. So we're doing all the processes that need to be done. And, you know, we look great electorally today. The election's not today, but all the things that we need to do when we ultimately come out in September, whatever that may be, all the pieces are in place for us to come rocking out, to win the Senate, to win the White House, and get Don Beyer 10, 20 more colleagues in the House.
Absolutely.
Which we're going to need, because in only 3 times in the last 120 years has an incumbent president not lost seats in the first by-election in 2022.
Yeah.
And we don't want to give back the House or the Senate for Joe Biden. We want him to have strong Democratic majorities all 8 years.
That's right.
But by the way, you know, I'm so proud that I believe in Arlington and Alexandria and Falls Church, every single precinct has a precinct captain. There are actually competitive votes to see who can be the precinct captain in some of these places. And these are the folks who right now are taking the time to go through the voter files, call people, call them again, send them an email, and really do the great perfection of precinct work. And that's what pays off for years and years to come.
Well, that's why I said that you all are envied for your volunteer corps. That was not just flattery. It is really true. I've had the opportunity to be on the ground and to help elect some great Democrats like Hala Ayala and others during my time at Emily's List, getting some more women into. Yes, sir.
But, you know, the other thing is, you mentioned, we do have elections every year. So there really is no time off. But I want to thank the party. I mean, here we are at the state convention, our state party. And as you know, as national chairman in 2002, I built the party's first national voter file. We did not have a voter file, believe it or not. Republicans had had one for 20 years. We had to build it from scratch, you know, 400 million names, our first national voter file. Virginia, I believe, has the best voter file in the country. And that's because we work it every single day. Everybody puts the effort in. And we energize our grassroots supporter every day. And it's really a testament to all the folks who are watching here. We never get to relax. We never stop campaigning. But the party has provided the tools that we need to be effective. And look what we have been able to do. In turnout in the primary this year for Joe Biden. Think of this. In the Virginia presidential primary, our turnout was up over 60%. That is extraordinary. People are fired up here in Virginia.
Can I ask you all, I totally agree. It's incredible to see the energy. It's incredible to see the trifecta. It's incredible to see what you all have been able to do. And one piece of this that just was so striking is the level of voting reform that has taken place now and that you all have passed. Almost makes me want to move there.
Almost.
Almost. I need to make DC a state.
Well, you're getting close.
Yeah. I have other work to do for good Democrats. Yeah, but you know, so if we can like turn a little bit to what is going to be one of the most critical pieces, and Governor, you focused on this as well during your time as chair, and that is about voter protection, voting rights, and one of the biggest, what could be the biggest impediment to us electing Joe Biden as president is Republicans stealing this election. Donald Trump continuing to talk about vote by mail, absent, and other things that would expand our ability to vote as fraud. So I would love to hear both of your thoughts on that, and sort of not just for Virginia, but kind of get your global view on how we're going to tackle this.
Yeah. Nan, you want to go first on this one?
Well, first I want to thank Jerry. When you were governor, you insisted on paper ballots throughout Virginia.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you very much for your leadership there. That you've done more to protect our vote than anyone. And
yeah.
I'm really excited. And Matheny, I don't think you need to worry about Virginia. Our voter protection folks have had a lawyer at every precinct in Virginia, I think since Terry was governor. So we do a good job at it. Now with the rollback of the stupid, immoral Virginia ID laws and no fault absentee ballots, I'm hoping in the next year or two, we can get to actually mailing ballots to everybody like they're going to do in California. But Terry, your perspective nationally would really be valuable.
Yeah. And this is, you're exactly right. This is the thing that keeps me up at night, that you wonder, how can we not win all this when people agree with us on the issues? And Tony, you're right. Back in 2001, I started the party's first voting rights initiative. I started the new institute. I had former mayor of Atlanta, Maynard Jackson, I named as chair, then Donna Brazil, I named as vice chair, because it is really incumbent on us to protect people's rights to vote. And we've got to make it easy for people to vote. And there are deliberate attempts. There have been, why I did this as national chair, I could give you chapter and verse, and we put the reports out of deliberate attempts to really marginalize communities of color, fewer voting machine booths in communities of color, and all the things they do. It is systematic disenfranchisement on voting and voting rights. We've made great progress, but we need to make huge changes. And it really depends on electing a governor, because these elections are run at the state level. Donald Trump does not run the elections. They're all done at the state level. And that's why I'm really excited about our neighbor to the south, North Carolina. I mean, we were the only blue state in the South in 2016. I do believe that North Carolina is really the next big break in the wall. I mean, Roy Cooper will win re-election as governor. We will win the U.S. Senate seat. Cal Cunningham, I think, is up 8 or 9 points. And I think we'll win the state Senate, which will help us in redistricting in 2021. And that's a broader issue, but we have got to be out there preserving people's right to vote. And that's why we got to win the governorships. And that's why in 2018, when we netted 7 new governors, including Michigan and Wisconsin. So in the key sort of 6 battleground states, we now have a Democratic governor in 4 of the 6. Also Pennsylvania and North Carolina. But I'll say this, I said it earlier, and I can't say this enough. What Trump is going to try and do, and through the Republican Party across the country, is to try and put new laws in place that make it harder for people to vote by mail, harder to get absentee. That is what they're going to do. And he's going to run down the election because he knows he's in real trouble and can't win. So he's going to try and denigrate the democracy here and saying, oh, it's corrupt, it's illegal, and foreigners involved and they're stealing ballots. We're bigger than that. And that's why this is our year to do it. And we got to stand up for all those people who do not have a voice, are counting on us to get it done for them.
And Trump's trying to bankrupt the Postal Service in the short run.
Right. Yeah.
But by the way, to add to that, Governor,
Yeah.
I think we'll pick up at least 2 House seats in North Carolina, which is very exciting.
Yeah. Great.
And Florida is very much in play in the presidential election.
Yeah.
And I don't think a Republicans ever won the presidency in our lifetimes without winning Florida.
I mean, the good news today of the 6 battleground states, you really look at Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Arizona, Florida. Today, folks, we're up in all 6 of those. Now, election's not today, but I would much rather be us than them. And the momentum and excitement on our side for turnout, we just can't let them disenfranchise folks. I mean, Atlanta the other day, 6-hour waits, 6 hours. Come on.
Atlanta, Nevada, I mean, there were very few states that didn't experience, and it was literally every time you looked at the reason, it pointed to a Republican statewide elected official who, for some reason, was impeding people's rights to vote.
And we talk about Georgia. So as you all know, I ended the DRE machines in Virginia. I remember my first election as governor in Richmond. I went to vote and I pressed Mark. It was Mark Warner and Ed Gillespie. That was all that was on the ballot. And I went in and I pressed Warner's name and Gillespie's name lit up. And I did this like 4 times. And the press were all with me. I'm thinking, boy, this guy doesn't even know how to vote. How hard is it? And, by the 5th time, I think it was, Mark's name lit up and I quickly hit vote. So we investigated. I brought an outside tech team in, professionals, and they hacked into our machines off-site in 6 minutes, and it took them another 3 to change a vote. At that point, I said, that's it. So now we have all paper ballots. But many states in this country today do not have the paper ballots. We got to have that as backup. It's critical.
And Mathony and Governor, too, that they will cheat.
Yeah.
We have seen this so many places.
Yeah.
We've got to be ready for that cheating
in
other states.
Well, look, this is one of the reasons why, and I hope, Governor, we're making you proud, and Congressman, we are working ever closer with the DCCC and with so our congressional colleagues, with the DSCC and our Senate colleagues, with the DLCC, our legislative colleagues. We are working so closely together as an ecosystem. We understand that we've got to work this thing tightly. We earlier, I think, than ever, have put in place the voter protection directors, 19 states. We just released this week our voter purge tool that will be for the use of the state parties, that they will be able to run these reports. We know that that has been a common way that Republicans have tried to make sure that Democratic votes don't count, getting folks off the rolls. And I don't worry about this in Virginia now, but we certainly know that these are some of the parlor tricks that we are trying to get ahead of. And we've been running a lot of litigation early on to try and get rid of a lot of very old laws that have been getting in the way of folks being able to vote in a lot of states. And we're continuing to do that. I have one quick question before we are going to go to close. And that is this. As we look to help represent our nominee, who I think for the last 2 weeks in particular has really been a powerful voice in over really troubled waters, and everything that is happening right now between delivering a speech around responsible reopening, releasing a real plan about how we safely reopen our country. Talking about day one, taking immigration action and immigration reform coming off of his desk, even on the heels of DACA, which we know that Supreme Court decision was really exciting, but it's temporary. And everything else that is happening. Joe Biden has been meeting with leaders. He has been talking to the movement. He is listening and allowing a lot of this to change and help inform the kind of campaign and the kind of governing that he is going to do. How would you advise a lot of our good Democrats to talk about the Joe Biden that we all need to elect at the top of our ticket?
Congress, you want to lead us off?
Well, he follows the worst president in American history, a man who has no affection for anyone but himself, and who is corrupt and narcissistic. And you move to Joe Biden, who is essentially at the bottom a very good man. And in his 50 years of elected history, he's done nothing except take care of people and lead on really, really, really important issues. This is a guy with that trait of scandal, and instead overcome personal tragedy after personal tragedy to continue to give back to all of us. At bottom, we have to vote for who a person is. The policies are important and the philosophy is important, but it's who they are as human beings. And this is a very good human being that we need to lead us and to heal this country.
And I agree. I mean, you think of the empathy of Joe Biden and you look at the president we have today. Donald Trump wants a race war in this country. I mean, you can see this. He wants Americans to be fighting. He loves division. I was governor during Charlottesville. I talked to the president of the United States on the phone. I begged the president to come out and condemn the hatred, the neo-Nazis, the white supremacists. If you remember, he came out that day and said they were good people on both sides, where they weren't. Heather Heyer lost her life that day. We lost 2 state troopers that day. They were not good people on both sides. When he did the stunt with the Bible the other day to use tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse peaceful protesters, this is who Donald Trump is. That is not who Joe Biden is. And what I get really excited about is that Biden is a unifier. And as Congressman Beyer knows, people on both sides of the aisle love Joe Biden. We need a president that's going to bring people together. We got to bring this nation together. We can't continue in the path that we have that Trump has created. We got to be unified. And you think about the world. He pulled us out of the Paris Climate Agreement. He pulled us out of the Iranian deal. The world leaders are looking and say, what's happened to America? Joe Biden will bring all that back together. And what gets me most excited about this race, I'm always excited, but I really get excited, is we now have an opportunity with the next president in a post-COVID world. This economy has not worked for so many Americans. For the last 30, 40, 50 years, there's been tremendous income inequality. We now have an opportunity to rebuild the American economy that works for everyone. And that's what you'll see the vice president roll out in September and October as we head into the general election. We can't afford any more time with Donald Trump. We need a unifier, and he was a great vice president with President Obama, and that's who we need. And he's got the great experience, he's got the relationships, he's got the empathy, and we've got to do it. But we got to give him a House, we got to give him a Senate to do the things we need to do in this country.
Absolutely right. And I am so pleased with the relationship with the campaign, our state parties, our national party, our sister committees. I just want everyone to know that you have a high functioning ecosystem hard at work to make sure that we are putting together every single piece that we are going to need to defeat this president and to help Democrats win up and down the ticket. And Battleground Virginia could never be more important. And so we so appreciate the opportunity to talk to both of you. And I pass this back over to my colleagues.
And move to Virginia, Matoni. We need you.
Stay
Tony,
good.
thank you. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, everybody.
So good. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
So much. Thank you to the party.
What a party.